I was going to say good morning. It is not morning. Good afternoon, everybody. We are here for our virtual club today for the month of August. I am super excited. We're doing a really fun project. So I'm really excited to get into that. But to start, I need to thread my machine. So let's get that going first. I was going to do it before I went live, but I figured sometimes just going over like little threading tips and stuff is nice just to refresh people. So we will start with, we're going to thread and wind a bobbin. First of all, when you get like thread, usually there's little labels on the end. I see a lot of people just jam this onto their thread holder. It's not like hurting anything, but it is getting a lot of stickiness onto your little spool holder pin. So definitely if you just take a moment to like take those little tags off, any stickiness on that spool pin can just eventually cause the thread to kind of catch on it. So I don't know, maybe it's a little pet peeve of mine when that sticker gets left on, but I just try to pull it off. So, all right, we're going to wind a bobbin and then thread the machine. This is just a basic sewing project that we're doing today. I'll show you the project in a moment. It is amazing. But we're going to start with winding a bobbin. I am using the Baby Lock Presto 2 today. Just a nice little sewing machine, very similar to the Brother PS500, which is a great selling machine that we carry in the store. So that's what we're going to use for the project today. So let me flip over to that. All right, so we have our machine here. Go ahead and pop it open. When the machine is threaded with a color, as it is right now, you do not want to grab your thread tail here and pull that whole tail backwards out of the machine. Thread is very directional. It likes to move forward like it does when you're sewing, but if we pull it backwards out of the machine, it gets really weak and it's going to fray and build up in the tension discs in our machine and just start causing tension issues over time. So you want to get into the habit of cutting your thread at the top, grabbing it down here from in front of the needle, way down here, and just pulling that thread out. So the thread is still moving forward. You're not pulling it backwards out of the machine. Just a good tip to keep in mind. When we put our spool of thread on the machine, oh, and just to go back to what I was saying, sticker still on here. And if we take a peek, that is all kind of gumminess on my spool pin, which again, not a huge deal. We could wipe it off with alcohol, but your thread can catch on those things. So just be aware of leaving those on and what it might do. I'm going to pop my spool of thread on. Of course, this piece lifts up at an angle to put my spool of thread on. Be aware, all machines come with a couple different size spool caps. You want to choose the one that's closest in size to the end of your spool, but just slightly larger. So when I pop this on, it's just slightly larger. If I was to use a smaller spool cap, the thread can catch on the little plastic here. A lot of times there's little nicks and cuts in the plastic, and I don't want it to catch on those. So I am going to pop that on. We're going to wind a bobbin first. A lot of machines nowadays have like a dotted line path showing you how to wind a bobbin. So we're just going to follow that. Going to bring the thread up, down and around, and then I'm going to come back to here. Now, your tension disc may not be in the same place on your machine, but every machine for winding a bobbin has a tension disc that looks like this. It's this little circular piece. It is super important that the thread is tugged underneath there. So I like wrap it around that piece and then like shoe shine it so I can see that the thread's pulled in there nice and tight. If it is loose, it's going to wind a very loose, lumpy bobbin, and that's just going to cause some issues over time, which we do not want. I want to take a moment to look at something in my settings here. Okay, we're good. I saw the camera try to keep like adjusting. I'm going to push a button and see if that changes it. Okay, yeah, it looked like you kept trying to focus on different things, which was a little annoying. So now I'm going to pop my bobbin on, pop it on, and you want to give it a little twist. Let me try that again so you can hear it. Nope. It makes a little click when the little notch lines up in the bobbin. So that will just stop this from spinning as it starts winding the bobbin. Going to bring the thread around from back to front in a clockwise direction and wrap it about 4 times. Then I'm going to take that extra little tail, and there's a little nub on the base that I'm going to catch the thread behind. And when I pull on that thread, it's going to cut the extra tail off. Now, have you ever had where the thread winds underneath the bobbin winder instead of thread winding into your bobbin? That is going to happen if there is slack in this thread coming straight across. Let me zoom in a little bit. So notice how my thread is coming from this piece here, and then it's just coming straight across to my bobbin. If there was any slack, and sometimes people will kind of hold the thread here, maybe, any slack like this where it's loose, as soon as it starts winding, it can cause it to just pull right underneath the bobbin winder. So really just if you find that there's slack here, go ahead and just pull backwards to stretch that thread out. So now it's going straight across. And when we start winding our bobbin, it's not going to catch underneath. It's not the end of the world if it catches underneath. It's just kind of a pain. All right, that's probably way more than we need. Of course, the bobbin would stop for you when it was completely full. I don't think we need a full bobbin, so I'm just going to push that back to the left, cut the thread, and just lift it back up. I'll put the bobbin in a minute. Let's go through threading on the machine. I'm going to disengage it from that bobbin winder piece. With any sewing machine, you never want to thread it with the presser foot down. When the foot is down, your tension discs within the machine are going to be closed. So make sure you're threading it with the presser foot up. The other thing is, oftentimes we like to turn our hand wheel when we're sewing. That will move the needle position. So if my needle is not in the right position, my incredible needle threader is not going to line up. Once that needle threader gets damaged, it's really a bummer. So go ahead and do the needle down, needle up button. So if you push it once, you'll see my needle drop down, and then I push it one more time. It lifts that needle all the way up. So I need my needle in the upmost position and my presser foot up every time I thread the machine. Now I'm just going to follow along with that path, following the solid lines this time. As I come up here, this is tricky for some people. They're used to seeing that take-up lever outside of the machine. With most machines nowadays, that take-up lever, that little metal bar sits inside the machine. So I need to bring the thread up on the right, swing it to the back, and come down on the left-hand side. I promise it's going to catch in there as long as you put the needle in the upmost position. And then we come back down, and we get to use our needle threader. Make sure before you use the needle threader that you're using the thread cut on the side of the machine to cut that tail off. You do not want to be holding the thread. That will also bend the needle threader. If you're holding onto that tail, you're going to hold it a little too tight, and it's going to bend the tiny little needle threader. And then once we're ready to go, boom, threads our needle for us. Last thing I want to talk about before we jump into this project is putting the bobbin in. We get this almost weekly. If your tensions are off, first thing you want to do is not make tension adjustments. First thing you want to do is rethread the machine. So with an embroidery machine, it's really easy to see if your tensions are off because usually you're using a white bobbin and you'll see that white bobbin thread pulling up to the top. On a sewing machine, if you're using the same color top and bottom, it may not be so obvious, especially on a straight stitch. But oftentimes what happens is we miss the tension disc when we put our bobbin in. you can't see what we're catching it in. It's beneath this little plastic piece here, but there's just an actual tension disc that we're squeezing the thread in between. So when I put my bobbin in, I want that tail hanging down on the left-hand side, so it looks like a letter P. I'm going to drop my bobbin in like that. And now, instead of just winding my thread loosely through this path here, I want to make sure I push down on the bobbin. That way, there's some tension on the thread. So now, as I'm pulling it through the path, it's more likely that it's going to snag in that tension disc in the front as it's supposed to. Once I get to the top of this hill, I can let go of the tension and just allow it to pull around and go to the thread cut. Then I know my tensions are always going to be good. At least that bobbin case tension is always going to be caught. So just some little tips and tricks for threading and winding a bobbin on your machine. The other thing is we're doing a sewing project today, mainly straight stitch. I want to talk about the difference between the J foot and the N foot. These are two common feet that come with your Brother and Baby Lock machines for forever with the Brother and Baby Lock machines. But with most machines, you have a standard like straight zigzag utility stitch foot, and then you have a foot that's used for decorative stitches. If you notice the opening of the foot, they both have the same size opening for where the needle would go down. So sometimes people think these feet are interchangeable. Oftentimes they can be interchangeable, but the difference is your standard sewing foot is completely flat on the bottom. So what that means is it just has a really solid pressure of the foot on the fabric, so you're not going to get any movement or slippage. So this is going to be the best foot to use when you're sewing straight, zigzag, any stitch that calls for this foot, your standard foot, which for Brother and Baby Lock happens to be the J foot. You want to use that foot. Keeping the decorative stitch foot on the machine, again, it will sew with this foot, but the difference is the bottom of this foot has this groove here. So on each side, it's a little bit raised in the middle, and that is because this is your decorative stitch foot. So it's allowing heavier stitches to flow underneath the foot without any, it's leaving some room there. It's leaving a little gap for the heavier stitches. Say you were doing a satin stitch or a heavier decorative stitch, it's leaving room for those stitches to slide underneath the foot, where your standard foot is completely flat. So a decorative stitch, like a satin stitch, it may kind of bulk up in place here and just kind of not keep sewing, just kind of jam in place. So there is a difference between your standard foot and your decorative stitch foot. So just keep that in mind. If you're not getting a great stitch quality, make sure you have the foot that the machine recommends for the stitch that you choose. All right, let's do this. Our project for today, we are making this adorable little shark pencil pouch. Oops. Great for back to school, as I know the kids are going back to school about this time. My son is out of school, so this is going to be my sewing accessory pouch, right? Why not? Hold all of your little sewing accessories. It'll be perfect for it. Can close it up if I need to go to a class, as long as everything fits within there. Those scissors, oh yes, they can jam in there. Perfect, right? Super cute. So let's talk about this. I will leave the link for the pattern. This pattern is from Studio 77. It is her, it was a YouTube video on how to make this project. So you can get the pattern from the YouTube video. There's just a link below it, but I'll also link it here. There's a couple different pattern pieces. So you have a lining, you have a top and a base of the pencil pouch. Notice that some of these say you do need to cut a left and a right side. And for all of these pieces except the lining, then you have your fins, you have your back fin, your side fins, and your dorsal fin. So for all of these pieces except the lining, you also need to have fusible fleece. So fusible fleece is just this fantastic product that is fusible on one side, not on the other side, but it just gives a good like stiffness and body to your fabric. So we'll need some fusible fleece. The fabric that I used for this first guy is from the idea of this same project from a blog of patchwork. What was it called? Patchwork Posse, I believe was the name of the website. I will link that as well. And she chose to piece the whole project together. I liked the look of that, so I did that. I took her idea of patchwork, but put it into the Studio 7T7's idea of how to put the project together because it was a video that I could follow. Note that if you're piecing it together, that blog recommends just doing more of a 2D fin where you have the two sides, you sew them wrong sides together and just trim near the end. Whereas the video, the YouTube video, and what I'll show you today is the right sides together, stitch, and then turn it right side out. That got really kind of fiddly and kind of tough to turn out with this whole patchwork. It just became a lot of bulk in there. So just be aware of that. It's great to piece it together. It may just be a little bit harder to turn your pieces out when you get to that step. All right, we have our pattern, we have our fusible fleece. What I used for my fabric today is I took some of the decorative stitches, the quilt broidery feature of the Avenir, and I stitched it onto a huge piece of fabric. And then I cut my pattern from that. So I didn't want plain fabric. I wanted a little bit of a decoration on it. So that's a great way to use edge-to-edge quilting or some of the quilt broidery designs that you may have in your machine is just to like pre-quilt your fabric. I just put SF 101 on the back, no stabilizer or anything, just SF 101 because I knew I was also using the fusible fleece for this product. You're going to need a zipper. So I used a Sally Tomato zipper. You need a zipper and a zipper pull. You will need some buttons for the eyes. You'll need a lighter. And then just basic like pins. I have a little awl here to help me. You'll need a turning tool and maybe some clips as well. And a marking pen. I think that's it. That is everything we need. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Scoot my shark out of the way. So I have already pre-cut my shapes out. And I have already added the fusible fleece on all of my shark pieces. The lining I've cut out as well. You put an interfacing on the back. So I used, this is a fusible cutaway. It was a stabilizer because I didn't have the SF101 at home. I ran out of it. SF101 I use a ton and I just ran out of it for this project. So there's a couple marks you have to make from the pattern, both on the lining and on the two little side pieces. You make a mark on each side for the side fin and a mark for the eyes, which we'll get to in a moment as well. All right. I'm gonna clear a little bit of space here and we're gonna begin. First thing I want to do, I've already prepped my fabric. I'm gonna start sewing the tail fin together. And then all of the other fins. I have the two side fins and I have the dorsal fin. When I'm working with this project, got the pattern piece here. It recommends a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So what I'm using for today is this fantastic foot from Baby Lock. It's the 5/8 adjustable seam guide foot. So it actually goes out to a full inch seam allowance, but I can move this to any of these notches. And this piece kind of clicks into place so you can feel it has a good stability. So if I need a 1/2 inch seam allowance, 5/8 inch, I can just move it to whatever notch I need and it's going to hold in place and be a nice guide for the edge of my fabric. So I know for 3/8 of an inch, or I could even just take my pattern piece here. I'm going to close it all the way. My needle is going to be at this center red line here because I'm going to be center needle position. So I'll line that up on my pattern, and then I'll bump this out onto where it's a guide at the end. So it is literally just one click to the right from as far closed as it can be. As far closed as it can be, one click to the right. That is our 3/8 inch seam allowance. That's what we're going to use for this project. Go ahead and pop my foot on. Here we go. So I'm just going to line this up right sides together. The fusible fleece kind of sticks to the bed of your machine, so I make sure when I'm sewing these pieces together, I have the fusible fleece up, so the cotton is on the bottom, and it moves quite a bit easier. I'm in center needle position, but because these pieces are quite small, I'm going to put my stitch length at 2 millimeters. That way, my stitches are a little bit closer together. Here we go. I'm not doing any locking stitches because I know this is going to get caught in another seam. Let me see what's under my presser. There we go. Be aware that when you get to the corners get kind of tight. I'm going to stop with needle down. I'm going to change that setting. Stopping with needle down. It's kind of a single stitch at a time going around the corner. And continuing back down. When you have an, I guess this would be an inside curve, you have to train yourself to look at this opening here, because I want to line up this guide with where my needle is, not down here yet. If I start turning the fabric, look at how I've pulled away from where my needle position is right now. So I just have to train myself to not worry too much about this flowing over. I'm just watching the guide along up here a little bit farther where my needle's about to hit the fabric. Once my needle gets closer to that curve, then I'll start turning it around. I may pause if I need to make a sharper curve. Good. Just like a single stitch at a time. This is where it would be fantastic if your machine had the pivot feature to go ahead and turn that pivot on, which will help you. Every time I stop sewing, the needle would go down, but the presser foot would lift for me, so I could pivot instead of having to reach back here and lift it. Or if your machine has a knee lift, you can also push over with your knee, and that would lift your foot for you. All right. So there is our tail fin with our 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now, because this is a really small piece, I want to trim quite a bit of this seam allowance away and cut those corners pretty close. That way I can not have so much bulk in there when I turn it around. Thank you, Anne. Appreciate you watching. Sorry you have to leave, but of course, these recordings stay on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, so you can always go back and follow along as you're making the project, or yeah, just if you need a little refresher. So I'm cutting a good amount of that away, and then very, very close on the corners, because those corners get quite tight when you're turning it out, just because it's such a small piece. You can also, just to reduce some of the bulk, you can clip in on these inside corners if you need to, if you had really sharp ends on your scissors. Sometimes that will also help release some of the bulk on these inside corners. They're not super sharp, so not too worried about it. And now we turn it right side out. Again, this just gets a little just cumbersome, I guess. So I already stitched the other fins together. We have the two side fins and we have the dorsal fin, which is the top fin. So I wasn't going to make you guys watch me struggle turning these right side out. Because yeah, it takes a little bit of time. I like to just kind of try to wad it up and shove it through there as much as possible. And then from there, I'll use, if I was at home, I have little chopsticks in my room that I would put inside there. to kind of help shove it out, or I don't have them here today, but I could use like the seam ripper. I could shove that in there, just something to kind of help push out those corners. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next step. So once you have all of your fins done, they're gonna look like this. You have two side fins, you have that dorsal fin, and then the tail fin that I'm still turning out. In the video, she recommends top stitching around here. I did not. I like the look of kind of the little bit of puff left. If you were to top stitch it, it would kind of tack it down a little bit more. So it's an option. You can top stitch if you want. I just choose not to. So what we're going to do next is we're going to work with the dorsal fin and the, what are those pieces called? It's the top of the shark. You have a left and a right side. So again, I already have fusible fleece on here. I'm going to get rid of my side fins and I'm going to put that dorsal fin on. So how that works is I just take one piece. It doesn't matter if it's my left or my right piece. Doesn't matter at all. But what I want to do is I want to work with, so I think I forgot to mark. Yeah, I need to make one more mark here. So let me grab my pattern. I marked where I put the top of the side fin. I forgot to mark the dorsal fin. So let me just grab my chalk. I'll just line up my pattern piece, fold that down, and make that mark there. These are the Chaco liners. Makes a really nice fine mark. They work really well. All right. That is for the top of the dorsal fin, as it says on the pattern piece. So that is going on the flat side, and I want to make sure the curve of the fin is going down. So I didn't press this, so I'll just kind of finger press it. Line up the top here, and then lining up those raw edges. And I'm just going to go ahead and stitch it down. I'm going to be less than the 3/8 inch seam. She in the video does a zigzag stitch, which I can do a zigzag with this foot. So I'm going to go ahead and pop my zigzag stitch on, and we'll go ahead and do that just to tack this in place. Shifted slightly. There we go. All right. Oh, I didn't see the camera move there. Okay. So now what I want to do now that's attached is I want to attach the side fin. That's going to be on the other side. Side fins are over here. And again, I want to make sure that that curve of the side fin is facing down. I have a mark right here. And again, that is for the top of my side fin. So just lining that up with the raw edges. And we'll zigzag that in place as well. And a quick little finger press just to help it lay flat. I'm not doing any locking stitches because this will get caught in more seams, but it wouldn't, wouldn't be horrible if you do locking stitches. It's just not super necessary. When I did this project at home, I did put a quilting needle in the machine because I am sewing through fusible fleece, things like that. I think this is probably just a universal needle in this machine. I forgot to grab some extra needles, so we'll see how it goes. But again, it's the best practice to use a quilting needle when you're sewing through fleece or batting. Now what I want to do is I want to take the other side and I'm going to stitch these together using a straight stitch. So I'm going to put them right sides together. Maybe just use a couple clips to hold it. Just so nothing shifts on me. I'm going to go back to my straight stitch in my center needle position, and I will use that 3/8 inch seam allowance. I'm going to put on my automatic lock stitch as well, so it'll do the forward and backwards locking stitches for me. And then away we go. So now when I open this up, start to see that shark coming together, that little fin right in the center there. And now all I have to do is I have to attach that other side fin. So curve facing down towards the, away from the head, down towards the tail. Just kind of finger press. Lining up the raw edges. I'll go back to my just kind of default zigzag stitch. I'm not adjusting length or width or anything. It's not really necessary. Okey-doke. Got our shark coming together here. Got his little side fins on. That dorsal fin's ready to roll. All right, so now what I want to do, you look at my notes here. Oh, it would be a good idea to press this center seam open. I am just going to finger press it because I did not set up the iron. So we will be just fine with a finger press. Okie doke. We're gonna move to the zipper next. With our zipper, if you're using a, so I'm using the zipper tape that has the extra pulls with it. If you have a standard zipper that you're using, you will cut it to, let's see here, 20 centimeters, which is 7.87 inches. So I cut it just like a notch under 8 inches. You know, just kind of eyeballed it. It's not, you know, doesn't have to be super exact, but just a hair under 8 inches is what we need. When you cut a zipper, you're going to get all of this fray here. So that's what the lighter comes in place for. We're just burning that off so it doesn't continue to fray on us. Ideally not starting a fire in the event center. Okay, cool. So what we want to do before we pull our zipper apart is we're going to want to mark the center because we're going to line it up with the center of our little shark here. So put that marking pen away. Let me grab it again. So I'm just going to fold it in half to find the center. There we go. And you're going to mark it on both sides because you are obviously going to separate the zipper. So I've removed that zipper pull and now I'm going to separate the teeth of the zipper. Okay, I'm going to take the first part of my zipper and I'm going to pin it to the right side with the right side facing down. So when it turns out, yes, okay, just want to make sure. So we're lining up that center mark with the center here. I'm going to use a clip to hold it in place, and the clip will also hold my seam open because remember we want that seam to stay open just so we don't have a ton of bulk here. Now this is a sharper curve, so you really want to take the time to pin or clip it into place nicely just so it moves pretty cleanly around that curve. So instead of pulling it, you know, super tight, just give it a little bit of slack so we can work it into that curve shape. There we go. Coming around to the other side, same idea. Okay. Okay, we are going to need our zipper foot to sew on our zipper. We are going to be sewing down with the zipper on the left. So that means I'm going to attach this. Yes, on the left side. We'll see if that's correct. Yes, okay. Make sure I go back to my straight stitch. This is where that awl comes in really handy to kind of hold the fabric in place as I'm working it under the foot. And then lowering my presser foot down. So I'm on a straight stitch, kind of normal stitch length. I will do some locking stitches. Goodness. Almost caught the zipper. So I'll lift my needle up so you can see what I was about to do. The zipper is flowing on top of the zipper foot. Yeah, no, we definitely want it to go underneath the zipper foot. That could have been a bit of a catastrophe there. Okay, so now it's flowing underneath the back of the foot. All right, and just take your time with this. Again, it's a little going around a curve, so you just want to be aware that it's flowing nicely. Yeah. And there's a bit of a bulk there for some reason. I feel like remove that one as well. I feel like maybe I gave it too much slack and now it's bulking up a bit. I remember when I did this project at home as well to create the sample. First zipper was a little dicey. Second time, so much easier. So, all right. Here is our zipper. So now when we go ahead and open it up, we can see those teeth are facing exactly the way we want them. It's not too shabby. Okay, we are going to repeat with the back piece of our pencil pouch. So this one I just need to fold in half to find where that center is. I could put a pin there or a little mark with my chalk. Match that up with the center of the zipper and we'll go ahead and pin that as place as well. So right sides together. And curve and pin. any of you haven't put a zipper in before, we do offer a class on that, class specific to zippers. So putting a standard zipper in, putting a zipper in as you would like a pair of pants where you have the shield in front, the part that covers your zipper. If you think about like your, jeans or dress pants or whatever, the part that covers the zipper, and then also doing an invisible zipper as well, which is a different technique from like the zipper foot that I'm using here. So yeah, we have some great classes that kind of dive in a little deeper to common feet that come with a lot of machines. All right, I'm going to start a little bit farther forward so I can see that that zipper is underneath the back of the zipper foot. I'm going to do a couple stitches forward first and then go reverse with my locking stitches. And then just as I come forward again, just not letting that zipper catch. Just doing your best to get that zipper laying as flat as possible when you sew it. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. There we go. Give it a little pull there, add some extra bulk. Okay, zippers are done. So now what I want to do after attaching the zippers is, I imagine I would want to top stitch that. I feel like I top stitched my other one. Yes, I did. Yeah, I'm going to top stitch around that. I love a good top stitch. To do the top stitch, now when I fold the zipper out, it's going to be on the right. So I can move this foot over. So now I'm guiding the zipper along the right edge. I'm going to use the edge of the presser foot here as a guide right along the edge of my gray fabric. So that way my needle's going just maybe 1/8 of an inch from the edge of that gray fabric there. The light gray fabric, not the gray of the zipper. Locking stitches. And again, holy moly. Catching that zipper under the foot, not on top of the foot like I did. Just as I go around, trying to push that seam back and just kind of finger press it to lay nice and flat. All right, so just a nice little top stitch all the way around. Do the same thing with the other side, and then we're moving on to the lining fabric. A little ahead of myself there. Make sure that seam's pressed open underneath so I don't have too much bulk. Oops. Okay. All right, so top stitched, good to go. It's just going to help hold that zipper out a little easier. All right, we're going to grab our lining fabric. I am going to lay the lining fabric right sides together on top of my shark top here. So just similar shapes, right side together. Obviously it's a shark, so I used red for the lining. All right, and what I want to do is I'm going to stitch just around this area that I just did where the zipper is. So I'm not going past that, but I just want to go right around where the zipper is. I'm going to make sure these line up also. So line up the bottom of my fabric first. I feel like I made my seam allowance a little too big. Well, let me see here. Maybe I just didn't open it enough because I didn't press that center. Yeah, maybe I went a little big on my seam allowance there. It's not totally lining up with the lining. Oops, oops, oops. I don't know. All right, we'll carry on. All right, so I am going to keep my zipper foot on. I will be sewing this way. Yeah, so I'll have that zipper on the right still. So making sure the backing is pulled away. And I'll feel the teeth of the zipper from the top here. So that's still going to be my guide as I'm sewing around. So I'm going all the way here to where the zipper starts. Pushing this right against the teeth of the zipper that I can feel. And I'm going to sew around. Again, just going nice and slow to make sure that that bottom part stays tucked under. And also put my fingers in front just to feel where that zipper teeth is, where the zipper teeth are. Good. And again, making sure I stop right down here where my zipper ends. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing with the other side. So that is the base. I'm gonna line up the bottom. Right sides together, yep. Here we go. I just got a notification that the battery is running low. So let me do this stitch, and if we get disconnected, I will just go and grab the plug-in, and I'll be back in a couple minutes, 2 minutes. But we'll see if we can get through this stitch first. Seems a little scary to not see that zipper underneath, but again, like that ridge there, that's how the zipper foot works, is it just stays kind of bumped up against the end of the zipper. I'm sure if you push too hard, you could push it past that. So just make sure you're not, pushing past that ridge, but has a nice little wall there. All right, that's that. Now, right here at the end of our zipper, we're going to make a small little slit. So I'll turn it this way so I can see you. Here, right at the end of the zipper. Doing that on both pieces. Now we're going to go ahead and turn this out. No, did I sew this wrong? Oh my goodness, I sewed this wrong. Wait, whoa, 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 whoa. Right sides together on top of shark and base and stitch just over zipper area. How did I get the teeth hidden? Let me think this through. That was silly. Oh yes, the teeth are now encased. Oh my goodness. How should, oh my goodness. Oh, that's frustrating. What would I have done there differently? How would that not encase the teeth? Unless it was right side to here. No, no, goodness. Okay, well, that was a horrible mistake. We no longer, our poor shark is now toothless. We have a zipper inside that is pointless. Oh, I wish I would have realized I was doing that. That's frustrating. Okay. I am going to pause for a moment. My battery is about to die, so we are going to take a little time out. I'm going to cancel this feed, but please stick with me. I will be back in like 3 minutes and we'll continue on with this project. So just one moment.